I'm a recovering perfectionist. So if you see me fixing anything around here, just don't even worry about it. Just forget about it. It's okay. I say this because a lot of the things that I'm going to be talking about today and a lot of the lessons that I learned in my life, they stem from my perfectionism. And it held me back for a really, really long time. So I just wanted to throw that out there. As she said, I've been a registered massage therapist for 10 years. Don't let the small size fool you. I pack a punch, okay? I love what I do. I love helping any person that feels pain within their body to just alleviate that. But not just with massage therapy, with alternative medicine in general. So if it's me, if it's someone like Celeste, if it's a chiropractor, physio, anybody like that, I'm always about sending you to where you can get the help you need. If I can't help you, there's got to be somebody out there that I know that can help you with that physical pain. So I've been doing that for 10 years, and I have my practice on the Danforth. And I'm also a speaker. No, Sarah. No, I'm a speaker. I'm the founder of the Unchained CEO. It's a platform that I created a few years ago because I wanted to inspire and empower women to discover their purpose, pursue it, and be everything that we were created to be. Guys, no offense, but we're awesome, okay? We're awesome. Just putting that out there. Thank you, Mark. That was a good answer, Mark. So I'm going to go into a few things because I love talking with people and I love interacting with people, and I'm so happy to be here, if you can't tell. But it took a long time for me to get to this place. And again, like I said, part of it was because of the perfectionism. And as I was connecting with people and growing and changing, I knew that there was something inside of me saying, Sarah, there's more that you need to do, and it's not within the healthcare field. So today I'm actually going to be talking to you guys not about health, but about pursuing your purpose, because I think it's so important. When I got to the place where I was learning all these different lessons just in life and through business, through family, all of that, it made me see things differently. I went through a few different experiences that really opened my eyes. So before I go into that experience, I want to get a show of hands. How many of you were born and raised outside of Canada? There was like me. How many of you were born and raised outside of Canada and now you're living currently here in Canada, whether it's Toronto or anywhere else? Yeah. Look around. I want you guys to look around and see how many. Okay, it's pretty much most of the people in this room. I was born and raised here in Toronto, but for 6 years of my life, I lived in Jamaica. And my mom did it a little backwards. So she took me from here and brought me there. So when I was in school, people thought I got deported because they couldn't understand why I was there, and the accent kind of threw them off, right? The funny thing about living in Jamaica, it taught me a lot of things. Those years of my life, those 6 years, were very pivotal for me. In my eyes, it was literally the starting and ending of my life because we had always gone back and forth to Jamaica to visit, but living there is a whole other story, right? And I was 14, and I was thinking, this sucks, because they took a city girl, I mean downtown girl, and put me in the middle of bush, straight in the bush. Like, the place I lived was called Silo. You probably don't know it, so I'm gonna let you know. If any of you drink Appleton rum, Appleton is right beside Silo. That's where I live. Country, trees. Don't get me wrong, I like to get, yeah, bush, exactly. I love to get out and like unwind and relax in the country and everything, but I'm always gonna wanna come back to the city. So when I was there, living and growing, I had a lot of firsts. I finished high school there, I got my first job there, first boyfriend, first everything. Like, that happened in Jamaica for me. And it made me realize that I was there with my mom, my sister, and 2 nephews and a niece. So it was like 6, 7 of us, I think. And while I was there, those first few months were hard because I kept focusing on everything I lost and not all the amazing things that I gained. So the first few months to a year, needless to say, was very difficult. I was a brat, Canadian brat, 100%. We moved to a house that hadn't been lived in for a really long time. Oh, jeez. So while living there, we had to turn on the power, the water, all of that stuff again. And let's just say the pipes weren't really where they were when they first put them in, so we couldn't get water to come into the house. For the first few weeks, we didn't have any electricity. Please remember, I'm a Canadian. I'm 14. I'm used to lights and water. We didn't have water for months. And I truly believe that when God puts you in a place, he'll always provide for you. I didn't really know that at the time, though, but I figured it out later on. And so our house was like here. And there's a little bit of a hill, and then just below it, there was a river. So we had to catch water in buckets. Kelly's smiling because she knows. You know. Okay. So we're catching water with these buckets, bringing them up the hill, and really put this into context. We're not just catching water to take a shower. We're catching water to wash our clothes because we sure don't have no washing machine. We're catching water to flush the toilet. Like, you laugh, but it's serious. It was serious. And those experiences really humbled me. They made me resilient. It just brought out like this hustle, this drive that I didn't even realize I had at the time, because when I got to Jamaica, I had to work with what I had. I didn't have any other options. Like, we come to Canada, or some of us that were like born and raised here, we're used to certain things. All these little things that we take for granted, they're luxuries in other places. Now, I'm not saying that Jamaica is the same way it was, because this was a while back, so things have changed a lot, but there's still a lot of families that still do that. I had to wash my own clothes by my hand, and let's just say my mom wanted to make sure that my clothes were clean, so she didn't make me wash my school uniform. That was the one thing. She's like, I'll wash your school uniform because I want you to go to school clean, but you have to wash everything else. And I don't know, for some of you that are from the Caribbean, you might remember this. You remember that sound, that chirp, chirp, chirp? For the life of me, I could not get that sound. So I always thought my clothes were dirty, because people gave me the impression that if you didn't get that sound, your clothes weren't clean. Like, all right, fine. I learned a lot, right? The reason why I bring this up is because when I came back to Canada 6 years later, I knew I needed to come home because there were just certain opportunities that I didn't have in Jamaica, and I knew I'd have a better chance in my home, right? So you'd think that when I came back to Canada, I'd melt right back into things. Everything would be all right. This is my home. It's my place of birth, right? No. I struggled. I couldn't get a job because I didn't have Canadian work experience. I was Canadian in Canada and couldn't get a job because I didn't have Canadian work experience. And I know some of you experienced that when you came here, like they told you that. I know Thora did, because when we connected, that was one of the things you mentioned, right? I was depressed. I was really lonely. I had a lot of family here, but I didn't have friends and stuff like that. I was living way up in Richmond Hill, another form of bush at the time. It's much more developed now. And I was there, and I remember thinking, all right, I got to get my life together. I just got to get things sorted. Once I, get a job and I start working, get my own place, everything will be better. So I strive for that, because society tells you that, right? If you have a job, you have money, you have a car, you have a place, you're good. You should be all right. So I achieved all of those things, and at the end of the day, I felt worse than when I first came. Like, I was like, is something in the air? Is it something in the Canadian air, the water, that I'm not? Because when I lived in Jamaica, I had moved to Montego Bay when I was 19 for my first job, right? And I worked 16-hour days, 6 days a week. I worked inside of Breezes, super clubs, Royal Decameron hotels. I was the person, my team and I were the people that made sure you had a good time when you came to Jamaica. So if you ever remember going to an all-inclusive resort and you think, you know those people that you see all the time and you're like, do they ever go home? No, they don't. We work in shifts. We're always there. And I would work the 16-hour days, leave from work, go to a party, be there till 6 o'clock in the morning, come home, take a 2.5, maybe hour-and-a-half nap, and start all over again. And I've never experienced like depressing feelings, stress, none of that until I came back to Canada. How many of you feel like you're doing all the things that people tell you to do? You're achieving all the things that you're supposed to achieve, but you still have like this thing deep inside of you that's like, why do I feel sad all the time? Right? One of the reasons why I created the Unchained CEO is because the unchained part means unchaining yourself, literally. Letting go of those things that society and religion try to force you into, this box that they're always trying to put us in and saying, this is how we're supposed to be. This is where you're supposed to be by the time you're 30. And if you're not, I'm in my 30s. And when I reached 30, well, when I was approaching 30, I got kind of worried because I was watching like 16, 17-year-olds with all this stuff, and I didn't have it. And I felt like I was running out of time because that's what they make you feel like. And I feel like that's where a lot of the depression and the sadness comes from because we're constantly hustle, 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 but we're hustling against other people that didn't go through the same journey that we're on. And we're comparing ourselves to them. So our chapter 2 or chapter 3, we're looking at Susie Q over here, and she's at chapter 20, and we're feeling depressed because she's got more than what we got, not realizing that we're just at a different place. So my first lesson that I want to share with you that I learned is that I needed to take responsibility for my life thus far. I can't leave that up to achieving things or the things that society tells me I'm supposed to do. I have to take responsibility. And this might sound harsh, but I want each of you, when you leave here today or before you do, to set a standard that no matter what happens, you are going to take that control back and that power back and take full responsibility for it, good or bad. When I tell you this, I'm not saying it to say that everything that happens to you is your fault, because you can't control everything and you definitely can't control people. But the one thing you can control is your response, and the second thing is what you do with that experience or those experiences. This leads me to lesson number 2, and it's similar to what, oh, she left, what Jackie was talking about. Have a vision, figure out what that is, and start with what you have where you currently are. Start making moves towards that vision. When I first started my massage therapy practice, it failed miserably. It failed. Because I was just so like gung-ho, I put on my entrepreneur hat. I was just so happy to finally be an entrepreneur because I've always wanted to have my own business. Long before I even knew what the word entrepreneur meant, I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And straight out of school, you know, I got my license, I got my hands, and I'm ready to go. And I jumped in. I didn't have a plan. I didn't know what kind of clients I wanted to see. In my mind, it didn't matter. I just wanted to get started and go, go, go. So I did that. And because I didn't have a vision, I was literally seeing anybody who would come to me. The problem with that is you have to be almost like a chameleon. You have to be this massage therapist for that person, or this accountant for that person, or this healer for that person. And every time you have to change yourself and switch, and it's like you don't realize it, but pieces of yourself, you're giving small pieces of yourself to each of these people, because healing practices, don't think for 1 second that it's like, oh, I just heal you and you go and everything's right. We take on a lot of that stuff that you come in with. So every time we give of ourselves, and it's not in an authentic way from a place of our own healing, you're constantly just giving to anybody who'll come, because it's more so about the money and keeping your business afloat. And that's how it started, because after I got out of school, I didn't have a job. I was working. I was an entrepreneur. I was ready. I was feeling good. And at the end of the day, it failed because, one, I didn't want my business in Brampton at the time. I didn't want to be in Brampton. I wanted to be back in the city. And two, again, because I was spreading myself too thin. I was doing seniors in nursing homes. I was with kids one minute. I was with athletes the next minute. I was with, the everyday person who has stress and tight muscles, just all over the place. When I think about the vision that I had later on to get me to where I am now for my massage therapy practice, it was as simple as this. I knew I wanted to help people. I knew that was important because that's why I got into massage therapy in the first place. The second thing was I wanted to live downtown and I wanted to work downtown. So you learn lessons from your mistakes, right? Or your failures. That's what they're there for. So I learned that this time I'm not just going to jump in without a job, without any kind of resources, without any kind of money. So I got a job basically thinking if I could just see the clients that value what I do and are willing to pay me for it and not expend too much mental energy, I can use some of that to start my practice and let my job fund my business. So that's what I did. The reason why I tell you this is because the second part of that plan was just that I wanted to be in a nice neighborhood and be across from walking distance from a subway station because I didn't want to commute. I commend every single person in this room that commutes because I did it for 3 months and I was like, no. That's not the life that I wanted to lead at all. 2 things. Get the job, find the place. That was it. My old perfectionist self would have needed to have every step outlined before I took the first one. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to have every single step. If you have the first step, the second step, take that. And every time you take a step, the rest of the steps will make themselves clearer and clearer each time. I want you to close your eyes for a second and just imagine you're standing and out in front of you is just fog, just pure fog. You can't see anything. But the place that you're standing in is a familiar place, so you know that behind the fog, on the other side of the fog, there's something out there. On the other side of that fog, imagine that this is the vision that you have for your life, the things that you want to accomplish, the things you want to achieve. Now, when you look down at your feet, you can see your first, even your second step. But that's about it, because the fog is so thick you're unable to see forward, right? But you know that when the fog clears, you'll be able to see where it is you're going. You continue to take the steps, and each step you take, you know instinctively that you're getting closer and closer and closer to your destination. Now open your eyes, and you look around, and you realize that the fog is now clearing. And when you look behind you, you realize you've actually come 10, 15 steps from where you started. The fog is the frustration, it's the confusion, it's the not knowing, the uncomfortableness, it's the uncertainty. What's behind the fog or on the other side of the fog, like I said, is your vision. You know it's there. And every step you're taking is bringing you closer to it. You trust that the fog will clear, right? If you were out and about, you would trust. You would keep driving, trusting and knowing that the fog is going to clear. This is the same thing you should do for your life. Trust that all those little things, the setbacks, the frustrations, they're going to pass. You have to keep moving. I firmly believe that it's important to pray and it's important to wait on God. I believe that 100%. But so many of us are always waiting on God for us to move. Like we want the heavens to open, light to shine down, and God to say, Lucy, go. And then we'll go. When for me, I feel like He's waiting for me to move. He's already given me everything I need. It's right here. All the seeds that you need, He's planted inside of you. It's there. And your challenges, your setbacks, your experiences, those are the water, the fertilizer, the sun that's helping them to grow and to flourish. I've always believed that purpose isn't something that you find outside of yourself. I don't believe that. I do believe that there are external things that you'll do that'll help you to discover it. But ultimately, your purpose is something that's already here, and you're using external things to discover it. So ultimately, you're not finding purpose, you're embodying it. You just have to trust that you have everything that you already need to start. And then you start. I'll give you a side tidbit, a side lesson. Because I had to take the job, which I didn't want to take because I tasted entrepreneurship and I loved it, and I was like, yes, I want to keep going. Sometimes you have to, in order to move forward, you have to step back. Those challenges that you experience, though, they prepare you for it. All of that stuff that I went through in Jamaica, it prepared me for all the storms that hit when I came home and everything that's hit thus far. Like when I tell you that I appreciate the simplest things, like I love bubble tea, right? And I'll literally go and get bubble tea and walk around the city and just people watch. Like just watch them. No, I don't stalk them. I don't do that. I'm not doing that. But I watch them. I walk around and I just think like, what's their life like? Or what's their story? I sip on my bubble tea and I just walk, and I might find a spot and I'll have a seat and just take it all in. Appreciate where you are and understand that nothing that's happened to you is insignificant. Nothing you're doing is too small. Just have that vision. Start where you are, like I said. Take responsibility and just keep moving forward. Third and final lesson that I learned. A lot of you are probably thinking, okay, Sarah, so I'm doing that. Taking responsibility, check. Starting where I am with what I got, check. But I still feel like I just don't feel passionate about what I do anymore. Or I used to love it and I just don't love it anymore. Or maybe you're that person that you're trying to discover your purpose, but you're not quite sure what it is. You're having a hard time nailing it down. I reached this place 3 years ago because I love what I do as a massage therapist, helping people physically. But as you can tell, I love to talk, and I'm naturally an encourager. And I'd find myself, literally, people on my massage table, and I'm massaging them, like, yeah, and they're telling me their problems, because I'm literally a therapist. Nadira knows. I talked to her, I said it. I'm literally a therapist. People tell me all kinds of things when they come in. And my natural tendency to encourage and uplift came out in my massage therapy. But they don't come for that. They don't pay me for that. So I gotta like zip my lip and just do what I'm doing. I knew that God wanted more from me, and I knew it wasn't in the healthcare field. My plan was to scale my business back then. I was going to get more employees, get a bigger space, do all that. But that thing inside, and women, we have it so strong, that intuition that tells you, go right, go left, wait a minute, not yet. And sometimes we don't listen to it because, again, We're letting society and church and all these other things tell us where we're supposed to be. So that inner gut feeling told me, Sarah, just hold off a little bit. Wait, not yet. And it wasn't fear, because I know what fear sounds like when it talks to me. She's loud and she's got a sassy attitude when she talks. So I thought to myself, okay, well then, what am I going to do? Because I'm not the kind of person to just stay in one place. I got to be growing, changing, evolving, right? So I did what I told you. I got quiet, and I tried to figure out what vision do I have for myself. But this time, instead of focusing on my business, I focused on my life in general. Who did I want to become as a woman? Forget the titles. Forget all the extra stuff, the materials. Who did I want to be as a person? How did I want my life to look? How did I want to live it? And how did I want to be remembered? Long after I'm gone, how do I want people to remember Sarah Watson? So I had to think about that. It took some time. 2 years. I couldn't figure out what I was supposed to do next because the old voices kept telling me, no, that's not it. That's not it. Nobody's going to pay you for that. Nope, that's not it. Because that's what we naturally gravitate to. So I did the one thing I knew I could. I took the first step, and that was to grow. For 2 years, I solely focused on personal development. I grew mentally. I grew spiritually. I challenged the things that I was taught in my faith, religious things. I challenged it. I questioned it. I went on this journey learning different things, exploring things that I've always thought about, but I was afraid because nobody's going to tell their Christian mother that they want to try certain things or they want to explore certain things or read up on certain things because everything's witchcraft, right? Everything's the devil, right? I went to conferences. I watched a lot of YouTube. Me and YouTube are besties. Me and Google, tight. Research things. I sought out different mentors just to talk to people and just figure out, like, when they got to that place, I feel like everyone gets there. What did you do to kind of break through that? I talked to people. And then finally, after letting go and letting God, I guess, the Unchained CEO, literally the name just like came to me, and all these things just started like, it's as if they were like being downloaded. The moment I stepped back and just focused on what was most important, growing myself and becoming a woman of integrity, authenticity, growing myself every day, everything just started to change and come full circle. So I did that. And it was challenging, but the Unchained CEO came out of this place where I truly wanted to help women just discover their purpose and pursue it. Because I'd meet a lot of women at events just like this, social gatherings, and they would tell me about all their different like ideas and goals, and I'm literally on the edge of my seat, like listening, because I love hearing people talk about what they're passionate about. And then at the end of it, when I say, okay, well, how can I support you? How can I help? Like, what can I do? Where's your website? Like, oh, no. I can't do that. I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean you can't do it? Fear, doubt, lack of skills, all these reasons as to why they couldn't do it would start coming up in the conversations. And I'm the kind of girl where if you tell me you are going to fly to the moon in a brown paper bag, I'm like, when is the launch date? I will be there. Nothing's too far-fetched in my head because I want to support you. And I believe that even if your idea or this dream that you have doesn't quite pan out the way you had thought, you're going to learn such amazing lessons from it that's going to take you to the next thing. There's a quote, and it says that a man or a woman without a vision for his future will always go back to his past. It's important that above everything else, like Jacqueline said earlier, figure out what it is you need to be doing, the person that you're becoming. Because anything you're doing now, when you get to that level of success, you're going to have to keep doing it to stay there. So if you're not proud of what you're doing now, it's not going to change when you have more money or more friends or more status or more fame. It's just like eating at you because you can't be your most authentic self, and now you've achieved all the things you want, but you're not happy. So for those of you who have heard about how Chinese bamboo grow, bear with me. For those of you who don't know, listen up because it's quite interesting. So Chinese bamboo, very resilient, very strong. You've probably seen them, tall, very tall plants. And one of the things I think is so amazing, and I was reading up on this because I didn't know this before, but Chinese bamboo, or bamboo in general, they were the only plant to survive the atomic bombs in Hiroshima, Japan, back in 1945. So they are strong. Like everything else, gone, and they were still standing. So like any plant, it needs water, obviously. It needs tending to, nurturing, all of that stuff. But just imagine this farmer getting up every day. He's going at the ground. He's tilling it. He's watering it, nurturing it, day in, day out. And after a year, nothing. Nothing comes up. Just dirt. Okay, no problem. You too, let's keep going. He's tilling the ground, watering it, nurturing it. After 2 years of nurturing this plant, he looks around, just dirt, nothing. Keeps going, tilling, nurturing, watering it. Year 3. Guess what he saw? Dirt, yeah. Some of you in this room are working, you're grinding, you're hustling, you're putting in all this energy, all this time, all this money, all this money, into your business, into your endeavors. Sweat, blood, tears. You're doing everything that you could possibly do in the direction of your dreams and your goals. And you feel like you're not really seeing much. There just isn't much there. You feel like you should be further along, right? But every day, you put that smile on, right? And you get up. I'm not a mom, but I always I commend mothers because I have a hard time doing all I do by myself. So I can just imagine you're getting up every day and you're doing all those things. And on top of that, you have little people that you're responsible for. But you keep going. Day in, day out, year in, year out. Year 4, still nothing, dirt. The beautiful thing about the bamboo plant, though, is that come year 5, after all that tilling, all that work, all that nurturing, it will grow up to 80 feet in 6 weeks. 80 feet. Now, I beg to wonder then, is it growing the 80 feet in 6 weeks? Or is it growing the 80 feet in 5 years and 6 weeks? Everyone's 5 years is different. Everyone's journey is different. Remember the bamboo plant. Remember its resilience, its strength. But remember that in that 5 years, if you did a cross-section of the soil and you looked underneath, you would see layers and layers of roots that are going down and down and down, strong, firm, grounding itself. That's what you're doing. All your experiences, everything that you're going through, you're building yourself up for that day when you shoot up. You're building that foundation. So as I close, I want you to remember the bamboo. And remember that you're the bamboo. And you're just as resilient. You're just as strong. And don't think for 1 second that any of the little things that you're doing is insignificant, because all of it is building your foundation for that day when you finally shoot up and all those things that you're trying to accomplish and work for come to fruition. I want to thank you so much for having me today. I'm here if you'd like to connect with me, the Unchained CEO, or myself, Sarah Watson.